What's happening, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the Crash Bang Boom podcast. Got a bonus joint featuring Nick Bender of Atlanta's Canopy for this episode of the Atlanta Drumming Series. Nick and I got to talk about their new EP, Empty Light, as well as his dealings with Becker muscular dystrophy and how it's affected his playing through the years and a whole lot more. So hope y'all dig it. Today's episode is sponsored by OneUpLoops.com. Drummer Carson Gann and his team spent an incredible amount of time recording over 450,000 shaker, tambourine, and hi-hat loops at every possible tempo and multiple feels with incredible mics and outboard gear for you to pick and choose. It's organized for you to find exactly what you need with just a few clicks and everything feels and sounds incredible. You can sign up for free to check it out and gain full access to all 450,000 loops starting at just $6 a month. No download limits, whatever you want, whenever you want. New loops, one-shots, and drum breaks are being added weekly. Definitely a great addition to the arsenal of any drummer and or producer, so check it out at OneUpLoops.com. Crash Bang Boom Podcast can be found where all podcasts are found. If you like what you hear, please check out any of the previous 290-plus episodes at Double High Fives. If you can give me a like, a subscription, and or a positive review. Alrighty then, here we go. Nick Bender, Canopy. Empty Light available everywhere. Crash Bang Boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
All right, I'm here with Nick Bender of Atlanta's own Canopy. Nick, what's up, my dude?
Jody, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. Last time I saw you was the first time, and last time that I saw you was at the gig when y'all played with Apostle and Laser Wolf and Palaces at the Star Bar. And man, I thought it was a great night as a sense of community. It was just a really fun night. And I said that night at some point or another, I've actually spoken to Brad from Laser Wolf, but now you will make 3 of the 4 bands drummers that I've spoken to thus far. So at some point I'll have to do Palaces as well, but I definitely wanted to catch up with you, man. How you been?
Man, been well. Been pretty busy between keeping up with band stuff and practicing weekly and also working full time, but I get to do that from home these days. So kind of gives me a lot more flexibility than I used to have, which is nice.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that was, I think, back in December.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great sense of community. It was a great lineup. I think we'd only played with Laser Wolf once in the past. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the first time we played with Palaces, and we've been friends with those guys for close to a decade now, and
wow,
had never managed to play with them. So we're really excited about that. And then on top of it being, just 4 great local bands, just kind of a drummer show too.
Totally.
Between Evan, Jonathan, and Brad, it's just really, 3 great guys to watch. So.
Yeah, man. Correct me if I'm wrong. Canopy, a new EP coming out soon?
Yeah, soon. We just released a single, Drainer, on Bandcamp, and it's actually, as of today, it's on Spotify.
Okay.
Still waiting for it to generate on all the other platforms. But
yeah,
we just we're working on final mixes right now, kind of on a tight timeline. Alan Duchess is doing the mastering for it, and he works very fast.
Yeah.
So we're kind of lucky in that sense, because we're getting down to the wire, and we're really excited just to get it out, because it's been, we've been working on this for about a year and a half. Gotcha.
How many songs?
It's 5 total. With this one, a lot shorter runtime than our full length. Obviously, it's less songs, but each song, average song length is down.
Gotcha. Nice. What was you mentioned that y'all been working on it for a year and a half. How long ago did you actually track the drums for it?
I actually did the drums, I think end of last March or last April.
Okay.
And it's kind of one of those things that's been so long that I feel like I actually play them a little bit better now. So
sure.
But after getting the mixes back and then hearing, the one song mastered, it's really nice to hear everybody all together and not be so. It's way easier to put the criticism aside when everybody else sounds good.
Right, of course.
So I've really been enjoying the mixes and just really excited to get the rest of the songs out.
Nice. When it came time to record your parts, or just track the drums for that matter, had y'all done a good bit of pre-production and or just demoing, recording, listening, coming to agreements, etc.? Or do y'all have a different workflow, or you kind of fly by the seat of your asses?
Well, we've always kind of been a band that will just get together and just hammer the songs out over and over again,
Yep.
and then just rehearse the shit out of them, and then go in and play. This will be the third recording that I've done with Canopy, and I feel like each one, the amount of work of pre-production has increased with each one. And I'm hoping by our next release that we'll really have fleshed out a good thing, with trading demos back and forth, because we did some demos of these songs just in our practice space, just to kind of get a reference for where things were, kind of pick which drum fills could go and which ones could stay, and which beats were working and which ones weren't.
Yeah.
And then really for this band with two guitars, and then the extra layer of synth, it's kind of there's a lot of things to kind of to consider to make sure that it doesn't just get overwhelming,
Yeah.
and kind of become unlistenable, because plenty of bands will just hit the ceiling really quick, and once you get there, it's hard to keep it there
Of
sometimes.
course.
So yeah, it's definitely kind of a lot of back and forth. I'll say that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been the guy, especially, recording and or just demoing or just, getting a room recording has gotten so significantly easier than what it used to be in the 90s and early 2000s when I was playing. And I just, even if it's just a Zoom H4n with the room mics and just recording that, I'll record that stuff, send it out. If we're playing the clicks, I'll say, this is what we recorded it at. I'll post it on a Google Drive. Everybody can listen to it. It's like, do y'all like the tempo, et cetera, et cetera. And then if they don't give feedback, then it comes time to record it and they have a problem later. It's like, well, you should have said something earlier. I sent it out to you assholes. All you had to do was listen to it, you lazy fucks.
Yep. Yeah. I'm thinking of one person who would love to hear that. But it really is true. And then playing with the click was kind of regularly was something that we just started doing maybe about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Because I was kind of, I wouldn't say resistant because I have any hard or fast beliefs about a click, but just because I was just kind of lazy.
Yeah.
And didn't want to really try and navigate the whole space of oh, well, I'm wearing headphones and hearing a click. How are you guys going to know how to stay on time?
Right.
And all of that. I just really wanted to just to play.
Yep.
But now I feel like the relationship with the click is good. It's a good give and take kind of thing. And with this one, the last two records we did, click all the way through for the recording.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now we're at a point to where I would like to maybe try to experiment with, okay, this part needs to be played to a click, but maybe this part we can rely on the internal clock to keep things together,
Mm-hmm.
and keep it heavy.
Yep.
And kind of experiment with that. But sometimes I like it for certain styles of music, like recording just raw, no click, and then hearing the time fluctuate when parts change, or like when when a drummer's double bass isn't quite where it is the first two times, but then it's locked in the rest of the time.
Guilty as charged. Yeah.
and I love and that's great for the older death metal
Totally
stuff for when I'm feeling it, but that's not really what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a good mix in the future is what I'd like to do.
I would say y'all have a pretty loose feel with the click. I wouldn't have thought that y'all necessarily play to it, not because it's inconsistent, but I guess it's just kind of the kind of doomier style that y'all do certainly has some big airy moments, and sometimes clicks, if you're not sort of dialed into what the best tempo is for that particular riff, it can feel or sound rushed. But I don't get that sense at all listening to y'all. So if y'all been working with clicks, I wouldn't say that it sounds like it to my ear, and I'm usually pretty keen on hearing.
Oh, well, that's man, that makes me feel good because especially on the full length, I feel like they're still kind of new, and there are times where how it is. Sometimes it feels like you're asking permission from the click, as opposed to really kind of keeping the forward momentum going.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of give and take with the metronome, but then live, I don't play with a click live.
Yeah.
Because I don't mess with in-ears or anything like that. I really like to be locked in with the guys, and then also with the crowd. Because that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But then I use it pretty much anytime we practice.
Right.
I've got the tempos mapped out. There's a couple of parts where I'll drop out and not use it, but It really is, especially because, practicing in the evening, it's like you've had your whole day, and it's like sometimes distractions and, just thoughts will zap you in the middle of playing, and having the click there is kind of a good, it kind of settles me down a little bit.
Absolutely. I always said that it's in the times where I have done like a couple of weeks or a week or whatever of doing, a series of shows or little tours and everything. I've never done extensive tours, but I did one in Europe, and I was so jet lagged. I was really glad that I had a click to listen to, because it kind of took my emotional ADHD brain and or sense of being tired and any of those other distractions, like you're saying, kind of, and threw that a little bit out the window. It's where I was playing along to that. I could still hear everybody. And I was kind of glad, because I feel like being a little delirious from the jet lag, I imagine it would have affected my sense of time, kind of battling through that, So I was kind of glad to have it. It was nice to lean on that.
Right. And it's, especially like you say, if you're playing in different places, or you're playing in a new club or something like that, it's, you want to kind of eliminate as many variables as possible. So,
yeah.
But having the click there is one thing that kind of can ease those things, because you never know what's going to happen. You might have a cocktail before you get on stage. You might have 2 beers before you get on stage, or you might have had some bad sushi a few days before. You never know. So
yeah, man. You mentioned the full-length Humanity Loss. Did y'all record that live as much as possible, or was that done in the more modern approach of everybody kind of tracking in segments?
So definitely we ended up doing the more modern sense of doing it. We tried to do as many complete playthroughs as possible, and try to get a solid performance from there, and then, some comping afterwards.
Yep.
But at that time, we recorded that at Lead Belly Studios in Dawsonville, with Matt Washburn.
Okay.
And Shaler, the guitar player, and I drove up and stayed one night. So went up, got set up, did a few songs. He let us stay down there in the studio, and then woke up the next morning, and then just tracked all day.
Yeah.
And then, made a few trips back up for vocals and second guitars and bass and everything.
Nice.
With that record, we actually had gone and recorded a bulk of them a few months earlier, and had gone in with no click, and we were pretty well rehearsed, but the performances really just weren't there. It was like there were parts that were really solid and sounded awesome, but then it was like, the fill would totally, a big drum fill would totally fall off at the end.
Yeah.
Or there'd just be big swings in tempo, and we got great tone, and everything sounded great, but we just weren't comfortable with performances. And so we just kind of, we just put them away on a hard drive and just forgot about them.
Wow.
And then rehearsed for, I don't really know how long it was. It was probably another 6 or 8 months, kind of with click, with the metronome, and really got comfortable with it, and went up there. And, it was a learning experience. And it was also like, colder time of the year, which, I'm a warm weather guy.
Yeah, I hear you.
So that was a little bit challenging, but overall it was like, I think the sounds that we got, the tones, especially of the snare specifically, I think I was really pleased with it.
Yeah.
And then looking back, I think maybe some of the performances I maybe could have, in my own critique, I think maybe I could have gone for it a little bit more on some parts, but overall it was a good experience.
Damn, dude. You had mentioned the last time we talked, a condition that you have. I'm spacing, of course, on the name of it. I believe it's a muscular dystrophy condition of some kind. Was it?
Yeah, it's called Becker's.
There it is.
So there's a few different variations of it. Fortunately for me, Becker's is the mildest form.
Okay.
And it's an X-linked genetic mutation.
Huh.
It affects your muscle system. So your muscles are kind of built up of 7 layers of tissue.
Yeah.
Each one kind of has an assigned function within your body. So I'm not sure which number it is or which name it is or anything like that, but one of the layers that has kind of responded to, or that is associated with rebuilding tissue, and then also like reaction time,
right,
and like quick twitch.
Yeah.
So that layer, there's a chemical called dystrophin, which is a chemical that's needed to kickstart the chemical reaction to get lactic acid to go into your muscles, and then for you to build up muscle. So there's just a deficiency of that one chemical. So that's all that I really know about it, and it's wild. I mean, as far as medicine has really come in general, there's still so much that they just don't know about everything. You know what I mean? It was like I went and got some blood work done to see if my sister if her son was at risk of being born with it too.
Yeah.
Thankfully he wasn't. But in that blood work, it revealed that like, yeah, you're kind of in like this point, like 0.5 percentile where we don't exactly know what the mutation is or how it's caused, or we just kind of know where it is. We don't really know, but we don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah. Damn.
I mean, I've had my whole life to kind of to deal with it and grow with it. And so I've definitely had some good support between, family and friends and everything.
How old were you when you were diagnosed with it?
So I actually had 3 uncles. One is still with us. All 3 of them had it, so they knew that I was at risk. So they went ahead. They tested me when I was born. So so there are some times where there's some situations where kids don't even find out until they're maybe 8 or 9 years old because their mom didn't know that they were a carrier. And what's also wild about it is that symptoms are different from person to person.
Damn.
And it's and this one is male specific.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's like, I guess kind of the way that like my kind of childlike way of rationalizing it's like I'm kind of like an X-Men.
Yeah, totally.
So,
well, now that I know a little bit about the condition itself, I'm curious as to how it would affect something so physical as playing drums. What's kind of your story with that?
It really hasn't been too much different from what I've heard from other drummers. And it's a little bit tough because I don't really it wasn't like I was injured and lost an ability that was there. I've kind of always had the same ability level.
Right.
So I think sometimes it's hard to explain to people because they almost always are thinking about it from losing the abilities that they have now, potentially.
Right.
So for me, it's just really just about having to do a few things differently. And it's like the big distinction for me, really, for like playing live specifically, is being on stage and then getting on stage are kind of 2 different things that come with 2 different sets of stress, So really being on stage, once I've got my kid up there and I'm sat behind it, we're getting line levels and everything, it's like I'm ready to go. I don't feel limited. I feel like as long as I'm doing my maintenance that I need to do, be that physical or mental, it just makes being on stage easier. So I don't really feel like drums was a really good lane for me because it was a physical activity that I could do and comfortably push myself.
Right.
And kind of test the limits, because that's one of the challenges of the disease is just that is not really ever knowing where your limit or where your threshold is.
Right.
And then also just having to be aware because if I push myself too hard, then I have a higher risk of injury.
Yeah.
Just between muscle tears or just anything anything bone or muscle tendon related. So I think I just had to really, just with playing, I think I had to kind of maybe grow up with my playing a little faster and start to pay attention to posture, and technique probably sooner than other guys, especially guys that like me that started just playing in bands.
Mm-hmm.
I took some lessons when I first started, but largely did everything on my own. So that's kind of that's kind of like the physical aspect of it, at least in the aspect of playing live. But I know there's been a few challenges here and there. I think, sometimes with trying out with new bands can be interesting territory to navigate because basically what it comes down to is like, look, I can play great and I can do and put in my homework and show up for practice, but I do need help, moving my equipment, getting on and off stage quickly. And not everybody is cool with that, but I will say kind of overwhelmingly people have been cool about it.
That's awesome.
Over the years. And it's really just came down to, it's really on me to communicate and tell them up front, like what the limitations are, and not focus too much on the limitations, and just really have it be about being in the band and it being about the drums and and playing nice with with other members
Yeah.
and really just so I felt like I really maybe around 2009 I think I really started to take drumming more seriously as far as versatility and trying to. I think I got a little bit frustrated with my playing where I was like, yeah, I could play super fast, and you know, and throw some crazy fills here and there. But it was like I saw other guys who were really good at pocket and grooving,
Yeah.
and I was like, I can't do that. And I was like,
Yeah.
so I spent a lot of time doing that and realized that that's really the like if you want to get gigs or you know potentially even make money, you know, that's where it is really playing pocket well.
Yeah.
So Canopy, when I met those guys, it was kind of like a really fortunate intersection where I was like really had started playing with a metronome on my own. Had spent like 3 or 4 months trying to learn how to shuffle,
Yeah.
and you know play Fool in the Rain
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So and then Canopy was much slower than stuff that I've been playing before, so it just all kind of worked out. So I kind of I found a lane and there's certainly things that I can't do. Like I'm not going to be blasting at 300 BPM,
Right.
you know, 30-second notes on my feet or anything like that. But it's like I also that's not really what I'm trying to accomplish with my drumming and with the bands that I'm in. And Canopy is just always has kind of morphed over the years to really kind of check. You know, it's heavy. There's some, you know, there's some mathiness to it.
Uh-huh.
And really just so I'm able to like hit hard and keep time and just carry the band in that way. So and then I really just can't say enough about everybody that's been in Canopy and including, you know, and the current guys just for being so cool over the years. And just, you know, always being down to help. And I think really, you know, making my input feel valued. And so that's why I mean, I've been now in Canopy, I think 8-9 years.
Awesome, man. Definitely good to hear the background on that story for sure, man.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, you know, sort of set up and trying to put some time and thought into kind of that aspect of it. Where are you at now with your setup, be it live or, you know, in studio or, you know, generally they're generally pretty close. I might put cymbals up a little bit higher when I'm in the studio for less bleed into some of the mics. But other than that, you know, it's pretty standard.
Right. Yeah. Same thing for me, just, you know, typical, you know, the bottom setup. And then it took me a long time to even add the right crash,
Uh-huh.
but that's kind of where I'm at now. And then playing some Ludwigs, some Keystone X's.
Nice.
They made them for a couple of years, and I haven't played anything really since, you know, 24 by 16, 13, 16, and then kind of had a variety of superphonics over the years.
Yeah.
I think the favorite one, the one on the last two records was a 6.5 chrome over brass.
Yep.
One of the newer ones.
Okay.
And yeah, that one I've gotten more compliments on that, I think, than any piece of gear ever.
Okay.
And you know, I always like to try to remind people it's like, hey, you know, it's not always just the drum.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it is actually the person hitting it.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that's been the setup, and then just kind of mix of A and K Zildjians. You know, I love thinking about switching back to the A custom crashes, going, you know, getting the polish back out.
Right.
And trying some of those again. But yeah, that's been set up for a couple of years now.
Nice, man. Wow. Well, I got to ask, I mean, like, what age did you gravitate towards the drums and why that instrument in the first place?
So actually, before I started playing drums, I played Little League baseball for a few years. I even tried skateboarding for a little while. And after a few slams, I was kind of like, no, man, I'm not tough enough for that. I'll get hit by a pitch in baseball, but I'm slamming on a skateboard sucks.
Yeah. Yes.
So I started playing drums, I guess, when I was 12, 13. That's when I got my first kit.
Mm-hmm.
But I started in the middle school orchestra.
Okay.
And kind of like a big thing for me was they came to the elementary school and they had a drummer with them when they did the demo to try and get kids to join orchestra. And I really, you know, I was just drawn to the drum set. And so I guess in 7th or 8th grade, from what I remember, I just like went up to my orchestra teacher and said, hey, I don't want to do this viola thing anymore. I want to do the drums when you go to the elementary school. And she was like, okay.
Wow.
So that's how I got started, like performing. And I think for that, we did like Pink Panther music, Pink Panther theme,
Yeah.
the Irish dance music from Titanic.
Okay.
So, my parents got me, they were like, well, you better take some lessons. So I took some lessons with a guy who like broke down the stickings for me,
Nice.
and did that. And that was like kind of my first performance. So then, yeah, I got my first kit because I had a cousin who wasn't playing one. It was in his mom's attic, and I begged my parents for a few months, and we finally went over and picked it up.
Nice.
Finally got some cymbals. Went to, this will probably be a clue about how old I am, but we went to Mars Music.
Okay.
And it was an old chain that got taken over by Guitar Center,
Oh, okay.
and they had a like a drum pyramid in the back,
Yeah.
just like drum kits stacked up, with the most expensive one at the top, and got some like ZBTs, got a
Mhm.
set of ZBT starter kit
Yeah.
cymbals, and then was off and running. Linked up with a kid at school who was like pretty ahead of his time for middle schooler with music, and he was super into NoFX and Misfits and Minor Threat.
Yep.
And his whole thing was like, dude, listen, like they're not even good, and like, and people like them, so we could do that.
Right.
And like this kid was like reading like Michael Moore books in 8th grade, and it was just like watching CNN all the time and like having political opinions. And it was like, whoa, like who is this kid? Like, but I wanted to play drums, and so we started playing in his garage, and I think we played Sliver by Nirvana was our one cover.
Okay.
And then we just had some other just not very good punk songs. I didn't really know anything about playing double time or D beat or anything like that. So it
Totally.
was just like totally just guessing and just doing whatever my body was going to let me do. So
And this was happening at your parents' house? Y'all were jamming there?
I had the cool parents that let the band practice in the basement.
That's the way it goes. Yeah.
Shout out mom and dad. And yeah, so I think in high school I had maybe 2 or 3 bands kind of, with the same kind of guys. And so that we did that punk band. We played like my neighbor's party, end of summer party or something like that. And
Yep.
and that's actually how I met a buddy of mine who I ended up playing music with for years. He was his teenage middle school band came and played the party too. And
Right.
so we did that for a little while, and then I don't know. I don't know why we stopped playing. We just did. Maybe he moved or something. And definitely my entryway was punk, like, the stuff that was popular at the time. It was definitely a huge into Blink-182 and Boxcar Racer, and love Travis Barker and Trey Cool and all that. Like, so that was like the first time. That was when I was actually like trying to take stuff that I heard and was trying to put it on a kit.
Right.
And try to make that connection. Yeah, then I bought with some allowance money or, doing yard work or something like that. Bought a new kit when I was 14. It was a Yamaha, like a riding, some entry level kit.
Okay.
I don't know why I got fusion sizes. I got 10,
Right.
12, 14.
14. Yeah.
But they still sound great. I still have them.
That's cool.
And then kind of got into heavier music.
Who was the gateway for the heavier music?
Man, it's a good question. It was actually, I kind of seek a lot of it out on my own because I had some older cousins who were into like, Corn or like Seven Dust and
Sure.
and like heavy stuff, but not not necessarily underground stuff. But the first day of high school, a kid rolled in first day wearing a Thursday t-shirt.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, like, I don't love that band, but, like maybe we could be friends. And he had just moved that summer down from Massachusetts.
Okay.
Worcester.
Yep.
So he had just moved down from there. And that was kind of like, so that's where I learned about Converge, and Poison the Well.
Oh, yeah.
And which, by the way, Poison the Well, dude, keeps showing up in my life. And they came up on the episode with Evan too.
Yeah.
And it was like they were a band that just like I just forgot about for a long time, and then revisited them and was like, man, like this band really influenced my playing a lot.
Yeah. Chris Hornbrook.
Yeah. And then I found a t-shirt for super cheap, and I was like, oh, I used to have one from that era. And every time I wear it, it's become almost a joke where people are like, so to place the Wilshire? Like, and it's just like, yeah, it is, dude. And people are just stoked on it. So it's just the weirdest thing. But yeah, so that was kind of, and then also Norma Jean,
Yeah.
the Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child,
Yep.
which me and some buddies have, I've got some opinions about that, where it was kind of like, it's definitely hated on by a certain section of people that liked heavy music. But man, going back and listening to it, it's like some of the parts that they pulled off,
Yeah.
some of the intensity, just everything about it was just like, this is still some of the heaviest music like I think I've ever heard.
Yeah. Yeah. It's heavy as hell, dude.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I heard, people would always, Gene is it's a botch or a coalesce ripoff. And it's like, I mean, I don't know, man. It's like, they're kind of doing, it's kind of its own,
I
it's
agree.
its own animal.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of a cop out to say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what was it? It was the singer, the original singer.
The guy that went on to the Chariot.
Yeah, like I mean that dude just had an attitude or like a swagger about him that was like, probably it was kind of a little beyond his age, I think.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
he influenced an entire whole scene, kind of was like the leader of the whole scene here.
Right.
For a few years there. And I mean, the Chariot, I mean, it was like, I saw a few early shows of them, like, the old Masquerade. And
Wow. I would have, you know what? I was going to see a lot of bands around that time and somehow they slipped through the cracks. I never got to see the Chariot. I would have liked to have it. The video that I've seen looks at bonkers.
dude, and even a lot of the videos are out are kind of in the later, like a little, a few years into the band. But the first two shows I saw, it was like they were, I mean, they were very sloppy, but it
Yeah.
was like very, very loud in and it's funny. It was like my best buddy, the youth pastor, the youth minister at his church was just nuts about Norma Jean and the Chariot. So he actually drove us down and we went to Eats and got jerk chicken. And he kind of introduced us to like, this is what you do when you go see a show. And he took us down to the show and it was like, he was like the super like chill, kind of mild mannered dude.
Huh.
And we get there and the Chariot starts playing. He fucking throws his hat off and just disappears into the pit and just comes back, just like sweating, just like wide eyed, just totally just blissed out, man.
He was moshing for Jesus.
Dude, he was, man. He was compelled. And outside of, some other earlier metalcore shows, like, some of those early Converge, or, I say early Converge, I say, the 2003, 2004 Converge shows, or Every Time I Die,
Yeah.
on like the Hot Damn tour,
Oh, yeah.
or, Between the Buried and Me, like Silent Circus. I was like, seeing people like leave the pit with like blood coming down their face, like people's girlfriends crying because somebody kicked over or something. It was just like, it was so insane. I was only, at that time, I was, 14 years old, just loved the energy, man. It was, and I was always, that's what really got me into playing heavy music, was like, I don't really want to be the one in the pit. I want to be the one that knows how to make the people do the pit.
There you go. There you go.
And then, so in high school, I kind of did like tried to do a metalcore kind of breakdown band, and going back and listening to it, it's like, I see what we were trying to do.
Sure.
And respect to us for trying, but it was like, we didn't have the right equipment. You know what I mean? We didn't really, it just didn't really work out. So, and unfortunately we played some shows like early on. It was like to like kind of an older crowd, like some dudes who are, 4 or 5 years older than us. And some of them were kind of cruel. So
Yeah, I bet.
it kind of turned me off of like playing in a band for a few years. And I kind of just like had a short time where I just didn't really, I played drums every once in a while in my parents' basement, but just like didn't really pursue any bands. And I had friends that were playing in bands, so I could always go to their rehearsals and cut up and play if I wanted to. Because later in high school, it was like I was all into skipping school and smoking cigarettes and, that's making, just getting into trouble and that kind of stuff. So,
Right. Oh my God. Who are some of the modern drummers that you've been digging as of late?
well, I would say two guys that you've interviewed. I think for my money, Tyler from Yautja, who I've met, I think 2 times now.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Super nice dude. I think him and Nick Yakishin
Yeah, he's incredible. Jesus Christ.
from
Baptist
playing with
and yeah.
Baptist and Sumac.
Sumac.
And yeah, the Armed, which I mean, I'm just I'm just loving that band, dude. The
Yeah.
last 3 or 4 records have been, they're just burners for me. I just play them start to finish.
Yeah, that shit is crazy.
Yeah, it's almost like a band. I can't listen to it in headphones. I almost have to listen to it like on speakers. But yeah, I think those two guys for me, I mean, for heavy stuff, I think that they're kind of like two of the most exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Yautja a handful of times. I remember me and some buds went and saw them at the Earl, kind of right after COVID kind of started to break up. It was like kind of the first big show that the Earl had after thing, and man, it was bonkers.
I bet.
They're just such a cool band to me. It's just like so much respect for the single bass.
Oh yeah, ripping it like that.
Yeah, the single kick pedal madness. I feel like I did my best version of it on one of the new songs for Canopy.
Sweet.
But yeah, I mean, it's just the last, everything they put out is just the drumming's just ferocious, man.
Absolutely. Y'all have any gigs coming up this summer?
We're talking to some bands right now about getting a record release show lined up, and then
nice.
So we'll have some things coming in the future. I think goal number one for us right now is just really to get the songs out. The response that we've gotten so far has been very positive on the one song. So we're just really excited to get the rest out.
Yeah, man.
See what everybody thinks.
What's the name of the EP?
Empty Light.
Okay. Tentative release date, June 25th?
Yes, that's what we're trying to do.
Right on. Well, Nick, it was fun talking to you, man. I'm glad to catch up with you, and we'll have to catch up soon. I'll definitely catch up with y'all this summer. I'm sure y'all will be playing some fun bills, so we'll catch up in the ATL and have a drink or two.
Yeah, man, sounds good.
Fucking A, man. Well, thanks again for hanging, and we'll catch up soon, my dude.
All right, man, take care.
All right, that does it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Nick for catching up. It's definitely an interesting story that he's got, and definitely glad to talk to him. If you're in the Atlanta area, keep your eyes open for Canopy. Catch you on the next one. Crash, bang, boom.